Internet, it's the Olive Dragon, coming to you from my art desk today. I've got a couple of things that have kind of been on my mind, and I wanted to chat about them. Nothing major, but I've been musing over a few things, and I want to share my thoughts, even though a couple of them might make people mad, but I don't really care. What I also wanted to do is start my little jewelry talk, jewelry conversational series here with my own work, which is most of what I'm going to be talking about on these, but also just jewelry in general, and kind of that tied into some of the things that I've been thinking about. I'm also not wearing glasses because my lamp on my desk was reflecting off them, and I didn't want you to have a big light in front of my eyes the entire video because that just didn't look that great. Don't mind my hair. I have no earthly idea what it's doing. I've been stringing for 5 hours today for my professional job, so I look a little rough, but yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about my work and jewelry trends and kind of how I go about my creative processes with my jewelry in particular. Like I mentioned a couple videos ago, I do have an eBay that I have started up for my work, specifically artwork and jewelry alike. I will be talking about that a little bit here. This is not an ad for myself or anyone else. It never will be, but I am going to talk about it. That stuff is going to be available for purchase. If you like jewelry and you like what you see, I will leave that link in the description. You are more than welcome to go look at it. It would thrill me to death, but there is no obligation to do anything like that. I mean, I'm broke. Most of my friends are broke. I get it. Jewelry is probably the last thing on anybody's minds. I do this to share my creativity with the rest of the world, and it's cool if you look at it and don't buy. It's cool if you look at it and buy. But this whole thing kind of ties into some of the conversation that I want to give my 2 cents on as somebody who is a creative who also makes artwork and jewelry and stuff like that and does like vendor events and just, I've been seeing a lot of talk going around about this kind of thing, and I'd like to chime in because I am one of the people that these people are talking about, or, well, in some ways. So, I'm just going to show off some of my pieces, chat about my methods here, talk about stringing a little bit. I do professionally string beads for a high-end jewelry store in my area in Raleigh. I just started with them, but I also have done this professionally with another jewelry store, also very, very local to my area, for like 4 years prior to that. And then I've been doing beading, and like wire wrapping since college. This piece right here is actually one of my pieces I made a long time ago. I know it's a little tough to see it. This is a really, really cool lapis lazuli piece that I got at a local gem show. It has tons of copper and pyrite in it. Kind of a free-form wrap. Sorry to get you so close to my face. These are Afghanistan lapis, and my friend gave me these beads. They were loose, and she said, they're yours, do whatever. Very, very, very clean, beautiful lapis that comes out of Afghanistan. I don't know where she got these, actually. She's had them for a long time. She's older than I am by about 10, 15 years. But I strung these as well. They are knotted. Most of what I do is knotted stringing, but if it's beaded, I can fix it most of the time. I do bead weaving, I do pearls, I do vintage stuff. if it's got beads, I'm interested, and I will try to fix it if it's broken. So helping clientele like that is one of my favorite things to do, because jewelry talks. Jewelry is sentimental. Jewelry tells stories. You have no idea what that means to someone. I've had customers almost like start crying in front of me when I hand them their jewelry back after I fix it. And that's an amazing feeling, and that's one of my favorite things about my job, in terms of jewelry repair and jewelry sales, is that jewelry is such a massive part of culture and, you know, like history and, you know, especially like heirloom jewelry, people bringing in things from their great-great-grandma. I fix so many people's grandmothers, great-grandmothers' pearls. It is unbelievable, especially because I live in the South and pearls are a really big deal here. You tend to inherit pearls before you would buy them for yourself more often than not as a Southern woman. Not that you can't buy your own, and a lot of people do, but pearls don't sell as fast here because you're usually getting your grandma's. If you're, you know, a Southern woman. So I fix a ton of stuff like that, and it's just so cool for me to be able to do that. And then I also sell bridal. I've designed engagement with customers for custom pieces, and they've always turned out gorgeous. It is so cool to see that stuff. But in terms of my own work, most of my jewelry is wire wrapping like this, or it's beaded and it's gemstone, and in my case, I do a lot of scrap work. So I am a big believer in upcycling as much as physically possible. I hate when people throw jewelry away. I love broken stuff. It is my favorite thing in the world to go and just buy a mystery jar of vintage costume jewelry from an antique shop or a thrift store, or like like a Goodwill or something like that. I try not to support Goodwill too much because I'm not super fond of them, but yeah, so something. And I love vintage beads. The older the bead, the happier I am. So this little guy here is actually part of an old vintage wooden necklace. He's double-sided. Really unique piece. I'm always looking for weird little pendants and stuff like this because they make such cool pieces. The other thing I've been super into is cloisonne. For those who don't know what that is, it is a particular kind of old school enameling technique. They take a blank metal bead and they lay out the pattern. I can't really zoom on this, but hopefully you can see it, with wire. And then it takes several days to enamel all the colors in with a little tiny needle. They use liquid enamel and then they bake it. It is so cool, but unfortunately it's coming back into vogue now, unfortunately for me as someone who's always looking for these beads, because now they're harder to find. I went to a thrift shop at the beach, 3 thrift shops in fact, / antique stores. Could not find cloisonne anywhere. Usually I can pick up at least a strand or something that include like a necklace, an old necklace that needs some restringing anyway, and pick it up and off I go. And I have some more cloisonne for my honestly outrageous bead collection. I have a problem. I cannot be cured of it, but I do use it, I promise. Obviously, because I have a whole gigantic box down here on the floor of pieces that I've made in the past couple of months for like vendor events and things like that. But the other thing that I'm really obsessed with is this, and I do hate the word obsessed because, thank you, influencer culture. I am not a fan of influencer culture, and I will be the first one to tell you that. But I am addicted to these lampwork beads, and lampwork beads are all handmade, also super vintage. I have started to see them again. Back in the day, they were like everywhere. But nowadays, they're really tough to find, but they're just really fascinating little, kind of crazy, none of them really match perfectly, lots of little bumps and shapes and swirls and metallic colors. They're really beautiful. This little yellow one is a lampwork with the gold striping on it. Really beautiful stuff. This one is plastic. That came off an old scrap piece from the thrift shop, but it gets the job done, and it's a nice little accent right there in the middle for the parrot. These are dyed coral, not real coral. You can tell because the coloring is like so uneven. I bought these thinking that they might have been the real thing, because anytime I see coral that I think is real, I'm gonna snatch it up. I do have a very nice coral collection that I've gotten over the years, mostly from elderly clients of mine that were downsizing at my old job and were just looking to get rid of like all of their beads. And I said, well, I'll take those. So I got a lot of really cool stuff from my old clients, and I do miss kind of having access to that clientele because they had all the cool stuff and the cool vintage things, you know, from when they were younger. But all of this stuff with these vintage beads, like, they don't make them anymore. You have to go scour around for them. This is a really cool piece too. This is mostly plastic. So I had an event, I posted the quick overview as a short on the channel of like my inventory for this vendor event. It was 50s themed. So what I decided to do for that event, it was an I Love Lucy type thing at an Italian place near me, and I'm actually going to have another one of those events in October, and it's going to be themed after, it's like a Grease movie night type thing, so that'll be 50s as well. I'll probably bring a lot of that same inventory, but I have new stuff too, and I'm making some new things. This is actually one of them. But like, I was making kind of a modern twist on 50s styles, so I did some research and all the big chunky beads and pearls and stuff like that, bright colors. But this turned out really, really cool. Those are metal beads and lampwork beads. This is more cloisonne here. Really fun color for cloisonne with the little butterflies in it. You don't see that too often, especially not in this shape. I just wish that stuff was not so expensive, but I usually try to grab it if I can. Some vintage plastic beads. I have a sort of like thrift shop ministries store near me, and they get hundreds of pounds of jewelry like a day from donations, so I will usually go in and clean them out of their like vintage plastic and vintage crystals and whatever they've got, because it's not horribly expensive and I can get a lot of cool mileage out of it. But the other thing I really like is stones. I love animal bone as well. And I have done several pieces with these really, really cool medallions that I get from a vendor at one of my gym shows. She's super sweet, she and her husband. Elderly Asian couple, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Absolutely adore them. I hope they just keep coming back forever. I know they're kind of getting up there in age, but man, they do some beautiful stuff. This is agate, so this is all stone, and it's probably hand carved because it's super vintage. These are wood. These are dyed wood. There's some purple lampwork between there, glass beads, amethyst at the bottom. And then these are super, super, super vintage. These are carved cattle bone. They have these beautiful flowers drawn on them. The light's kind of obscuring them. There we go. And these have dragons on both sides, which dragons are my absolute favorite, if you couldn't guess by my channel name. Same thing up here. These are vintage carved cattle bone as well. These things are so hard to find, but they are so cool. Very expensive stuff, but I think it's like 12 bucks a bead, which is, for normal circumstances, that's pretty outrageous, but for stuff like this, that's average and honestly pretty good price. Just absolutely stunning stuff. The wooden beads are also vintage. I picked this up. It was a necklace that I found in like an antique shop somewhere, took it apart, repurposed it. All of this stuff is vintage. Absolutely love this piece. Almost don't want to get rid of it, but I will be putting it up for sale. I can't keep everything I make as much as I would love to, because I am literally, like, look at this box. I am drowning in inventory. Not that that's a bad thing, because I'm doing some of the most creative and interesting work that I have done to date, as far as I'm concerned, especially for that 50s event that I did a little while ago, but if you want a really stunning example of cloisonne, this. I got this off eBay. It was in a different necklace. I have redone it entirely with some vintage plastic that I also got from the Ministry thrift shop near me. These things are so cool, just really vibrant blue. And then this is rose quartz. These are really big, pretty pieces of rose quartz with like a peach glass. I think I got these from Michael's, nothing fancy. But this piece of cloisonne, this is another one I kind of don't want to part with, but I'm going to put it up for sale anyway. I'm going to have to think about that one, though, because stuff like this is really expensive. It's very hard to come by. I can't remember what I paid for the necklace with this in it, but it was the only cloisonne in the necklace, and that's what sold me on it. But absolutely stunning example of what can be done with that art form. I am in love with the designs that this has. Very, very old world, very, very, very statement, depending on how big of a piece you get. I still have some loose beads. I'm just sitting on them because I hate to part with them, but I'm like, if I don't put them in anything, what am I doing with them? You know, they're just sitting in my fucking storage unit. So at some point, I have to make something cool with them. But this sort of brings me, while I'm talking about these things, to one of my other things that's been kind of on my mind recently, and that is just the problem of disappearing individuality. And I've also seen a lot of talk about like small businesses, and it's not very nice talk, to be honest, here on YouTube. And I do have an LLC. It doesn't go anywhere really beyond these like small vendor events and my eBay. It's not my day job. And I think a lot of the problem with people saying, oh, I'm a small business owner, I'm gonna go run a small business, I'm gonna work for myself, is that like you quit your day job, you know what I mean? And you can't, like, I've been in jewelry for over a decade. It is my passion. It is what I am best at. It's what I have dedicated a very large portion of my life to. I went to school for this, to learn repair. I am largely self-educated on gemstones and metals. I could talk your ear off, and I probably will. Apologies in advance if gemstone talk is not your thing. See you in the next video. Just don't click on the jewelry related stuff. But people are like, oh, small businesses are, you know, expecting too much. Small businesses are overpriced. Small businesses, you know, don't seem to think about the customer, or, you know, their stuff is crap. And like, yeah, that may be true for some. And if you are selling, I'm going to say this, and people might get mad, but I do not care. Do not comment. I will not pay attention to your comment. 3D printed slop does not belong in gem shows. It does not belong at art fairs. AI generated stuff is not art. You are not an artist if you make AI images. You are not an artist if you take AI 3D print models off the internet and 3D print them. You are not an artist if you sell 3D printed dragons. I swear to God, if I see any more of these, I'm going to scream, because they are in every artistic space that I have been in for the past decade or so when it comes to this stuff, and I am so sick of seeing it. You are not an artist. That is not art. You did not make it. You're not using your hands to make the thing. You did not design the file. You did not design the 3D model. And I have deep respect for anybody who can 3D model, because I can't do CAD to save my life. I have tried. Not my skill set, Captain. I have spatial relation issues. 3D shapes sometimes throw me off, and being a jeweler, that can be a little difficult sometimes. But the people who do 3D modeling for jewelry, the people who do casting for jewelry, mad respect. And the people who do 3D modeling for like circuit boards and their own print files, my housemate does that. He's got 2 3D printers in this house, and he 3D prints random stuff, but he makes his own models, and does the 3D modeling himself. So in my mind, that is more of an artistic endeavor than someone just getting free files off the internet, printing a fidget dragon that looks exactly like all the other fucking fidget dragons that I've seen, and trying to make a vendor booth out of it. That is not art. You don't belong at an art fair. You don't belong at a gem show. You especially don't belong at a gem and mineral show. What are you even doing here? 3D printed dragons have nothing to do with that. And I love a good dragon, I do. My desk is covered in dragons. Y'all have never actually seen my desk. Hang on. I have Transformers and dragon stuff. All my lovely Transformers models are hanging out on my desk here. But I have my altar over there has dragons. I paint dragons. Like, trust me, if anybody's gonna be interested in the little 3D dragons, it's me. And they are super neat. But the problem is they all look the same. And they're all from the same files, and you didn't do anything to make them distinct from anybody else's. And that frustrates the shit out of me, and I know that it frustrates other people too. Like, people are talking about these people who are like, oh, I make 3D printed stuff, and I went to this vendor event, or like, art craft fair, and nobody bought my stuff. Your stuff is shit. You didn't do anything. Sorry about that. And that part, I totally understand. And the problem with some of these small business owners, and I understand where the people who talk about these small business owners are coming from, and the fatigue around the small business comes from, is it doesn't feel like the item has any effort behind it, or does not have any level of quality that deserves the pricing behind it. And yeah, material is fucking expensive. Even if you are making something, and it may not be like the nicest looking thing, if you are making the thing, I have respect for you. And materials aren't cheap. I'm about to get priced out of my own damn hobby here, because beads are not cheap. I have a frightening amount of money in my beads and my wire, and I rent a storage unit because I don't really have room in my home to do beading and drawing and painting and costume pieces and all of the crazy bullshit that I do for my artwork in the same spot. I have half of this room that I'm sitting in, and this room is 10 by 14. Like, my housemate's junk is behind me, tech junk, that I don't touch because I'm scared of it. But like, I now pay, and I need to find a new source for this, but I pay $20 a pop for spools of beading wire that used to cost me $7. I get it, man. I bought clasps, jump rings, a couple spools of wire, some stretch cord. It cost me almost $200 at Michael's. So I have been looking for new sources for my materials, because if I don't have those basic components, I can't even make anything. There's no point in me buying beads and gemstones if I can't buy the basic stuff to put them on. So, in that regard, I understand. And I price my stuff a little bit high, but there's also labor, and labor's the part nobody thinks about. Nobody thinks about labor. Because, and I'm not blaming the consumer for this, because after being in jewelry for so long, it's understandable when people go, well, why is it so expensive? It's, a ring that's this big. Well, that ring had to pass through like 50 pairs of hands. It had to be shipped. The stone had to be cut. The ring had to be set. Like, that ring had to be inspected. That ring had to be packaged. That ring had to be unpackaged by another employee at the jewelry store. It had to be inspected by the employee at the jewelry store. It had to be put in a case, and then it had to get to you. So all the people in that chain of command have to get paid. Now, in my case, it is only me. I don't have employees. I probably never will. It is just me doing these things. I go out far and wide, all over North Carolina and anywhere else that I happen to be, to find this stuff, bring it home, sort it, figure out what I'm gonna do. All these designs are original. They all come from my brain and nowhere else. No one helps me with the designs. Nobody helps me come up with the concepts. I've made, at this point, several retail level collections. Retail collections usually include maybe 25 to 30 pieces individually. I've made many more than that. like multiples of that at this point. And I know that because I used to work retail and we would get different brands collections in all the time. So I'm very well aware of like what constitutes a collection for retail. But I try to keep my pricing reasonable. I base it on labor, materials, and that's about it. And the value of the beads at hand. Because some beads are worth more than others. The plastic stuff I can price a little cheaper. But I still have to ship it, so I have to factor shipping in too. But it does frustrate me to see some of these things and people bad-mouthing the small business and being like, oh, your product is ass. And if your product is ass, you need to improve. Like, if I made necklaces and earrings and everything else that I do, and people came back to me and said, hey, I just bought this from you and it fell apart, well, then I gotta improve my fucking product. Now, don't I? But, you know, if you're not willing to take feedback, if you're not willing to take criticism, if you're not willing to realize that not everyone is going to buy your shit, which I think is another problem. Like, I've been to the flea market near my neighborhood, and I sold maybe $20 worth of stuff the first day. I got sunburned. I about had a heat stroke. It was in August. Don't do flea markets in parking lots in August in the South. It's a bad plan. And then the second day of that weekend, I about had a heat stroke again, and I sold maybe $100. Which, not complaining, sales is sale. Really love that. That means somebody liked my stuff enough to buy it, and that thrills me to death. I love that people thought that was worth their money, because money's hard to get these days. I've got 2 part-time jobs, and I'm still barely making it. But I think one of them's about to become more full-time for the jewelry store, so cross your fingers for me, please. I would like to be able to not freak out about my bills every single month. Like, shout out to everyone else having this problem too, because I have several friends who are also in this boat, and it sucks, and that's a whole other conversation for another video. I will get off track very quickly. But, you know, like, you have to go in expecting that no one wants your shit. It doesn't mean you should be like, oh, my stuff sucks. I'm not saying that. Like, don't have a bad attitude. You should totally be optimistic and, you know, but, like, you can't be pissy, especially if you are selling just the same shit as everyone else, or your stuff doesn't stand out, or you're not, you know, trying to push any creativity. And I've seen this firsthand at, like, art festivals and makers markets in my area. Everybody's shit looks the same, and it's all boring. Like, I'm gonna make people mad, but modern jewelry is boring. It's so boring. That's why I do loud ass shit. And I've always been loud and gaudy, and, you know, I love, the bigger the jewelry, the more excited about the jewelry I'm going to be. I do very large pieces, and not everybody is super down with the stuff that I make. This one is plastic and crystal. Love these little blue crystals. They're so pretty. They're very blue zircon adjacent, but they're actually just glass. Shockingly, they're like blue aurora bead almost. This is faux turquoise in here. Getting a hold of real turquoise has become really difficult as the mines dry up in Arizona. So if you have real high quality turquoise, you might want to get that appraised, because it's going higher in price and value, and that's some pretty cool stuff. This is a little plastic celluloid vintage piece. Really, really neat carved flowers in here. I love celluloid as well. It just has a neat look to it. There's the back, it's metal, just costume metal, nothing crazy. This isn't really, but I love the blues in this. These beads just enticed me with their color when I saw them, and I picked them up. The turquoise in this maybe dyed howlite because it does get cold like a stone, but usually that's howlite when it's trying to be turquoise, but it's not, because howlite is white, takes dye easily, and is very inexpensive, and it already looks like turquoise. It's just a cheaper, more abundant stone with less value attached to it. But yeah, like, you can't, like, don't get down on yourself and be like, oh, no one's gonna buy from me. Like, don't throw yourself a pity party, obviously. But it is frustrating when people don't buy or you don't sell what you expected, and that's natural human behavior, especially when you do work hard on your stuff like I do. Like I said, I spent 5 hours doing stuff for my job on my day off today, but I spend anywhere from like 5 to 7 hours doing this stuff for vendor stuff and my eBay, and my friend helps me sell on Poshmark as well, and she's been an angel because this is what's getting me through my bills right now. But you go and you try again, and it's about finding your audience with a lot of creative work, and I have been trying to find that audience for a very long time. The area I'm in is not quite so artsy and funky in their styles as I am. And I get that. I am not for everyone, but that's okay. You don't have to be for everyone all the time, but I am so tired of seeing this minimalist, barely visible, may as well not even have it out for sale level of jewelry that, like, you can't even see it when you're wearing it. Why do you have it on? And it all looks like this knockoff designer shit. They want like $200 for something because it's a knockoff of like Chanel or Tiffany or whatever it is. And it's tiny. And I'm like, it's not even gold. It's not silver. There's no gemstones in this. Like, why am I paying you $200 for a teeny tiny pendant on a thin chain that I can't even see, that's gonna snap the first time I wear it? I hate that, I hate that, I hate that. And every booth at this maker's market that I went to had that kind of jewelry in it. And like, I'm sorry, if you're doing that, no, I'm not gonna even stop at your booth, really. I might peruse it, but I'm not gonna purchase from you. And I know, like, some people really like the minimalist look. I'm not saying that no one can wear minimalist jewelry. That's not my point. But the point is, when you look like everyone else and your stuff is barely visible, and this is jewelry specifically, but like, if your clothing stuff that you sell is boring, if you're 3D printing stuff and it's not your design and you didn't even bother to fucking sand it or paint it, I can't help you with that. And then if you get online and you bitch at your customers, well, I don't know what to tell you. And it makes it hard for people like me who really do want to, I desperately go out of my way to build relationships with the people that buy from me. I write handwritten notes in all of my shipping packages and say thank you, for supporting my tiny, tiny business, because it is very small. I appreciate that you like this design enough to buy that, because that's huge in my world. I don't care if it's like a tiny $25 set of earrings from me or a $100 necklace from me. Like, everything counts. It is so cool. I send people messages and say thank you, and then I send them a note in their stuff and say thank you as well. And I handwrite that, even though my handwriting is absolutely hideous, but I try to make it, like, pretty enough that people can read it. But it is frustrating that everybody's like, oh, all small businesses, or like a lot of small businesses are like a huge problem, and they're just selling crap, and I can't really be bothered to support it, or you go in and you feel obligated to buy. Like, I'm not obligating anybody to buy anything. I will say hi if I am at a booth. I will do what I'm doing now. I will share my work because I like to share my work with people. I have this platform. I like to talk about jewelry. It is something I'm extremely knowledgeable about, and I want to share that knowledge with other people. I'll be doing some tutorials on how I do stringing for pearls, knotted pieces, how I do stuff like this, so that people can also learn. Because I've had people ask me time and time again to teach them, but I don't have a good setup to like have classes. My storage unit is very overheated in the summer and very cold in the winter. It's not a great learning environment. It's very dark. I use battery-powered lights because there are no outlets. There is no overhead lighting in this unit. It's a concrete box with a metal ceiling. Like, it's not ideal to have like 5 people in there trying to string in semi-darkness. This is probably going to ruin my eyes even more than they already are. My vision is terrible. So I don't want to inflict this on anyone else. Like, I'm willing to go sweat my ass off for 5 hours in there, but I know that nobody else is. But yeah, you can look forward to some tutorials and stuff like that. More gemstone talk, more of this where I show off my work. I love this piece. This little dragon has been in my scrap for a long time. He's so cute. He's very heavy. He is metal. But his little jaw moves. I think he's supposed to be something like a clip or something, but I have no idea how you would connect him because the back of him doesn't actually like have any kind of clip to like slide him on a cloak clasp or something. But his little jaw moves. I like kinetic jewelry a lot, so if I see like a moving pendant or a moving charm, I usually try to pick those up. There is... what is this? I believe this is sodalite in here. Can't remember what I made this out of. Actually, this may be like dyed agate or something, or dyed quartz. Can't remember. It's some kind of stone, but it's definitely dyed. And then cobalt blue vintage glass. These are vintage. They're faceted. Really fun shade of like royal blue here. And then I've got these little metal beads with the infinities and a flower motif here. I just use lobster claws for pretty much all of my necklaces. They're just easier. And people can grip these because the main thing that I have had people complain about in my decade or so of being, hi cat, in jewelry. Sorry, my cat is bored and yelling at me on the floor. You might be able to hear her if she yells loud enough. Is that people can't grip the clasps or manipulate the clasps on necklaces, especially because a lot of my old clientele and current clientele are elderly people. So they'll get the necklace and they'll love it, but they can't manipulate the clasp. So I try to nip that in the bud as soon as I see it. I usually do a large catch ring, if you can see that there, and then I do a decent sized lobster claw because they have a bigger tab on them. They're just easier to grip. I find them to be more sturdy. Usually I'll do an extender with pretty big links too. Things like that. It's just an easy way to accommodate people who have issues with manipulating things. Yes, I hear you. Things like that. And then I have earrings up here as well, like a whole freaking just bag of earrings. If I can find a pair, I will show you. I made some with cloisonne recently that I am almost reluctant to sell as well, but like I said, I cannot keep everything. Yes, can I help you? She's yelling at me. My housemate is currently not home. These guys. How stunning is that? I know that these are my work, but it's the beads I'm talking about, not necessarily the earrings themselves, even though I'm very proud of these. These are vintage lampwork glass, and then the cloisonne with the gold background, probably one of the more common styles you see, but also very hard to get a hold of now, and these are huge. Like, you can see how big those are. They just stand out so nicely. I love these. I love them. I was so reluctant to use those big beads, but I'm glad that I did because they needed to go on something. What else have I got in here? I've got some feathers that I made a long while back. I love to do dangles. They're about the only earring type that I really make, just because I don't have these resources to do metal work. I don't have a torch or anything, even though I desperately kind of wish I did have that kind of space, but obviously no fire in a storage unit. I have these giant feather earrings. These are Amazonite and faux pearl, blue faux pearls. Really beachy, really fun. I love to do beach stuff. I've got a whole pile of Amazonite beads sitting in my storage unit waiting for me to do something with them. I've just been too busy. And like, I need to get to it. I bought it because I wanted to do beachy stuff. And then I got busy trying to find jobs, and then I got busy doing stringing for my work, and then I went on vacation, and like, it all kind of got in the way this year. But I will get to it. It'll be winter before I probably get to them, and they're a beachy stone. They're a beautiful white and brown and sky blue, and they can be pretty neutral, but if you get like the really strong blue ones, oh my god, they're gorgeous. This is another one of my favorite gemstones ever. These are also incredibly vintage. This stone is very hard to find. This is cinnabar. Genuine, actual cinnabar. Very rare, very expensive. I don't sell these earrings for that much, though. These are dyed agates up here, and then yellow agate for the small faceted stone. They're pretty long. I do love a long earring, especially because this hair eats my earrings. You can kind of see it trying to do it even with these, and they're pretty decent sized. So I try to make things that stand out for people with long hair like mine. A lot of people will say that cinnabar is toxic. That is not necessarily true. Now, cinnabar's other name is red mercury. There is mercury in it, but it is very trace in pieces like this. Cinnabar has been worn as amulets, necklaces, earrings, bracelets in Asia for thousands upon thousands of years. Even if you did absorb any mercury from it, which you shouldn't, because that would be extremely uncommon, then it would not be enough to do damage to your body in any way. It is a myth that this stuff is dangerous to wear. I wear it all the time against my skin, on my clothes. I have never had an issue. It is not recommended to get it overly warm or wet just to mitigate any kind of risk, but it is not that dangerous. I promise you can wear it. I wouldn't sell anything toxic, and I get this stuff from, again, that lovely, lovely Asian couple that I'm friends with at the gem shows, and they would not be allowed to sell it if it was dangerous either. Promise I wouldn't sell anything poisonous to anybody. But it is a myth, and people have kind of run with that myth, and a lot of people get kind of freaked out by it, so I try to set the record straight whenever I can. That's why I like to get on here and talk about stones, and we'll be doing so in the future. I also will be talking about some of the metaphysical aspects of some of the stones. I am very, very, very into crystal healing and that kind of thing. Crystals for emotional states, medicine for actual physical ailments. Do not mix up the two. I am not going to tell you to hold a quartz if you have cancer. Like, that's insane. I am, for those of you who don't know, I am a neo-pagan. I am a Wiccan solitary practitioner. I am a witch. So I am very much into crystals and, you know, nature and, you know, animals and that kind of thing, and spiritual symbolism and that sort of thing. But again, that is probably a topic for another video as well. I'm just sitting here sharing jewelry, and this is running a little bit long. There will probably be a part 2 to this, but I just wanted to share a few thoughts about people and their attitudes towards small businesses, and as a small business myself, but like, I wanted to weigh in because I am not one of those people who's 3D printing stuff, and it is frustrating to see that, and like, you know, or like you're overpricing for things that aren't good, and like, you may think it's the best thing in the world, but you have to think about your clientele. You always have to think about your clientele, your audience, how your public perception is. It's difficult. I'm always raw and real with pretty much everyone I meet. This is the real me. I am not wearing makeup. I have been busy today. These are things I physically make with my hands that I like to share, and I will never be anything more than that. With y'all, I find the whole influencer, like, identity morphing into a lack of individualism situation that we have on a lot of internet spaces to be very, very frightening. And that kind of ties into all of this as well. I had someone, I was getting a sandwich at a place locally yesterday, and the cashier at the at the counter while I was ordering this sandwich looks me up and down. I had on a black flowing shirt and skirt with like gold shimmery flowers on it, and I had like my big jewelry on. I'd come from work, and she looks me up and down and she goes, "You're eccentric, I like it." I said, "Oh, thank you." I mean, it's not the first time someone's called me that, and I very much take that as a compliment. It was just kind of out of left field because we weren't really like talking to each other, other than like I took my order and was paying her, and like she hadn't really said much until that point. So I was like, huh, okay. But I don't, like, what I was wearing should not be considered eccentric, you know? And I wish, like, I try to encourage people so much to, like, not follow celebrity, like, don't imitate people because, you know, oh, I couldn't possibly make my own decisions. Like, be yourself, be weird, turn off the influencer noise, because honestly, these women are boring. These women are so boring. Their faces aren't real. They all look the same, and it's really, really creepy. Like, it used to not be that way, but with, like, Instagram face being a thing, and all these, like, fillers and plastic surgeries, and, oh, I want to wear the boring, plain white t-shirt that, who was it, Kylie Jenner or something? I hear this by proxy on YouTube. I don't keep up with this. I don't have a TikTok. I never will. No, that place is where creativity goes to die. Like, all of this, I wanna, oh, well, so-and-so on the internet did this, and now there's like 600,000 people also doing the exact same thing on their TikTok or their Instagram. I don't really like Instagram either that much, especially after they decided to, like, show your location to all of your followers without actually telling you they were gonna do that, and I had to go turn that shit off. Like, I don't want people knowing where my house is and what I'm doing at every moment of my day. Like, Instagram, what the hell? You're gonna get somebody killed. That's another conversation for another day. But the point is, like, be yourselves. Be weird. Wear loud, noisy clothing if you want to. Like, if you're a goth, be a goth. If you're preppy, be preppy. You know, if you're, like, earthy and hippie-ish, then, like, go be earthy and hippie-ish. Hell, do all three. I do. You know, all my friends have a lot of variation in their styles. Like, one day I'm Victorian goth, the next day I'm, you know, like, wearing shawls and hippie-ish stuff, and I've got chains down to here, and, you know, like, mix it up, be yourself. Half my clothes come from thrift stores just so I can keep stuff interesting, and same thing with all these beads and stuff like that. Like, I pick things up everywhere I go, and my whole personality and self-expression is made up of places I've been, people I know, people I've known in the past, my family members and what they've exposed me to. You know, you should be, like, a collective of your own interests and the things around you that make you happiest. That's why I have all my fucking Transformers over here, and my, like, skeletons are up all year round, and, you know, I miss when it was, like, much more acceptable to be different, even back as close as the 2010s, which seem like a really long time ago now, but they really weren't that long ago. Like, I feel like individualism was more accepted, more encouraged. Social media didn't have such a stranglehold on all of us at that time. Like, it was still there, it was still a thing, and, like, not every trend is bad, but the trends that we have are, like, barely trends. Like, a white t-shirt or a white tank top from, like, Walmart and some denim jeans are not a trend. Like, that's not a style. That's what I wear when I don't feel like wearing clothes in my house, you know? Like, or it's 110 degrees in North Carolina that day, and if I go outside, I'm going to look like I climbed out of a pool. Like, that's what I'm wearing when I'm cutting, like, the grass or some shit, and I just threw on some clothes that are gonna get filthy within 10 minutes. That is not a style, that is not a trend, that is not something we should be striving to emulate or breaking down the doors of like fucking Walmart for. This whole lining up for hours on end for material shit that doesn't even look good and isn't made well is disgusting to me as well, especially as a maker of things myself and someone with an interest in fashion and design. It really breaks my heart to see that, because there is so much cooler stuff out there that you could be supporting or upcycling or interested in. People who do upcycling like me, you know, put all this effort into design and quality, and then, oh, it's a white tank top that people are like losing their absolute shit over. And I'm just like, okay. And like, again, this is not me being like, oh, why isn't anyone buying from me? This is just an observation that design seems to be dead. Especially as someone who, for me, I am very, very, very interested in ornate vintage things. I love old things. I love things, even like in the year 2000, like 90s fashion, year 2000 fashion. It was noisy, it was fun, it was loud, and I'm very excited to see minimalism finally die. Everybody is starting to get very sick of the sad white, beige, and gray aesthetics, and I'm very happy to see that. And I almost hate the word aesthetic now, thanks to the internet. It used to be a normal word, and now I can't stand to hear it, because it doesn't mean anything anymore. The internet has taken it, and they just throw it around and apply it to, like, everything. Everything's a fucking aesthetic now, and I'm just like, that used to just be taste. That used to just be a personality. That used to just be personal interest. Like, why do we have to, like, box everything in, you know, and make a label for literally, like, every little tiny thing that we do? Just do it. Just do it. If you like the thing, just like the thing. It doesn't matter if 10,000 other people on the internet say the thing is cool. Like, go out there, find shit you like, put it on yourself, put it on your desk, put it wherever you want, depending on what it is, and just enjoy it. And be weird. It is okay to be weird. Like, all of my friends are weird. We were always weird. It is okay to be weird. And I will proudly continue to be weird and just do the stuff that I'm doing. And I encourage every single person that watches this to do the same. And this got off on a weird tangent. I know I'm technically still talking about jewelry, but this is going on 51 minutes now. So I am going to cut this here. I will have more jewelry to show you. I know I didn't get nearly as far as I wanted to, but I didn't want this to feel like a sales pitch, because it's not. I just wanted to talk a little bit about my methods and the way that I do things, and I will talk more about that in the future. But let me know what you guys think. I am always happy to have conversations in the comments or in DMs. Like I said, I will leave that link to my eBay in the description. If y'all know someone who loves jewelry, or you love random artwork, I do little dioramas and fairy gardens with dragons and stuff in them too. I do paintings. I have some fucking jackets that I've never worn up there. I promise that they've never been worn. They had the tags on them. They just weren't my style, and somebody gave them to me like 5 years ago. Yes, I hear you. Petunia, come here. She hates when I pick her up, so if I pick her up, she's gonna scream. But I was hoping she might jump up on the desk. That I can show you on the floor. Say hello. Yeah. Are you just so whiny? Yeah. She's like, I want to be in the video too. My dad's not home and everything is bad. But anyway, before she attacks me, yes, I hear you. Before she attacks me, I'm going to end this video. I have gone on way too long, and I barely remember what I was talking about. But yes, I will leave that link in the description. Please check it out. You can DM me through eBay. I do custom work. I love custom requests. They're some of my favorite things to do because it gets me out of my own head every now and then. And I will see y'all in the next video. See ya!